Today we're going to be talking about the subject of human rights. We can ask the question, whose human rights? Because unfortunately the notion of human rights is not universally accepted. We're going to explore some of the reasons why that's the case, and also some of the organizations that are looking to universalize or generalize this concept of human rights. First of all, we start off with a question: why are human rights such a controversial topic? Well, first of all, they can undermine the legitimacy of claims to power. Once power gets established, it feels that it can determine where rights lie, and so if you have a universalist notion of human rights, this can undermine claims to power in any particular country or any particular part of the world. They they also contest ground formerly owned by religion. This is something which has been going on for the last several centuries and will continue to go on. The notion that rights are secular, that rights are universal, that rights belong to everyone, is not something which is necessarily shared by religious institutions. Um, there are no natural set of rights universally agreed upon. All rights can be contested, and depending upon the culture, depending upon the politics of a particular situation, we can see that human rights is a very controversial topic. They can also become political footballs. Certainly in the United States, we've seen women's reproductive and political rights come under fire. We've seen minority rights issues. We've seen immigrant rights issues, and we will continue to see these basic notions of human rights contested by politicians throughout the world. Now, the notion of universal human rights got a big push in 1948 when the United Nations issued their Declaration of Human Rights, and it was really the first attempt to truly set an international standard for what human rights are or what they could be. And there are 30 articles, and here are five of them, the first five, and you look at them, they seem pretty straightforward. But even in this early attempt, these rights come off as sort of aspirations or normative rather than something that the UN was insisting upon. So in any case, we can see all human rights are born. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood. Fine, nothing wrong with that. Everyone is entitled to all the rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Now, embedded in here is, some sort of lack of specificity, particularly with regard to issues that we're facing today. For instance, the issue of gay rights or gay marriage. So some of these things, which in 1948 probably seemed a little bit unimaginable, are now becoming real topics of conversation in the human rights in the human rights agenda. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. That's an interesting one, and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which again is a somewhat of a an ambiguous statement because one person's happiness is obviously different from another's, and it's very hard to address situations where one person's happiness may be causing another person's unhappiness. But that's a topic for another conversation. No one shall be held in slavery or servitude. That's great. No one shall be subjected to torture, to cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. Again, this article number 5 is very controversial. If we look at the events of the last 10 years, the wars that have been going on, situations that have emerged from these wars, we see that not everybody agrees on what the notion of torture is, or are there absolutely no situations where torture is appropriate. So we can go through all 30 of these and really have a conversation about them and see how they're able to be deployed. But in the end, has all this made a difference? We're still living in an age where there is slavery, where there is torture, where there are great disparities in terms of wealth, in terms of power. So even after half a century of attempting this universal definition, it seems that we're not very far down the road. Since that 1948 declaration, there have been a number of organizations which have formed to deal with the questions of human rights. The two most important ones being Human Rights Watch, which is essentially an American organization, and Amnesty International, which was founded in the UK in 1961. Human Rights Watch was originally called Helsinki Watch. Its purpose was to monitor human rights abuses in the former Soviet Union. It's generally supported by wealthy donors. It's extremely influential organization. You often see op-ed pieces in newspapers written by Ken Roth, who's the president of Human Rights Watch. However, this organization has been criticized for being too closely aligned with U.S. foreign policy. And in this week's video, you can watch a debate between a Human Rights Watch lawyer and a critic of the organization, which is quite interesting. Amnesty International is a global organization. It's founded on a chapter model, which they call sections. Each major country has a section of Amnesty International. They rely more on mass support rather than wealthy donors, so it's a truly sort of grassroots human rights organization, and they're oriented more towards specific campaigns rather than sort of global policy agendas. But because of their loose structure, it's been the subject of criticism over management practices and inconsistencies. Not long ago, there was a big scandal where somebody from Amnesty got a $300,000 severance package, which the members found quite unacceptable, given that the money that was coming into Amnesty was coming from small donations from the public. In the handout I gave you in this week, the reading by O'Flaherty and Ulrich, which talks about the professionalization of the human rights sort of career, the, sort of the development of human rights as a profession. They make a number of statements which I think are quite interesting. First is, what is essential is that the promotion and protection of human rights is emphatically not a matter of charity, but rather an entitlement of all human beings. Whereas charity may have the unfortunate consequence of placing the recipient in a position of inferiority and moral debt, which can be humiliating and disempowering, human rights work, when undertaken in a professional manner, should never do this. Typically, work in the human rights field is driven by passionate personal commitments and some element of personal sacrifice. And even as work procedures become better regulated and standardized, it is essential to retain this. So there are two concepts at work here. First is that human rights work is not charity. It's a professional activity based upon a set of principles and a set of methodologies and a set of tools for doing investigations, for doing reporting, and that is very different from humanitarian type work, and also that people who are entering into human rights work are usually driven by a passion to deal with these human rights issues, and the profession should not become over bureaucratized, because that may serve to dampen the enthusiasm of people who are working in the field, and that's very important to maintain that, because it's a very difficult and challenging type of activity. So if we look at where human rights work is going, obviously the field will continue to professionalize. There are more training and university programs that are focusing on human rights issues. New challenges are going to emerge all the time, particularly around issues of culture and how these sort of universal notions of human rights get interpreted, and how they evolve within particular cultural contexts. These investigations will become increasingly more dangerous and expensive. If we look at the situation in the world today, if we look at what's happening in Syria and Iraq, we can see that any type of intervention by outsiders is extremely risky and very dangerous. So, but yet this really has to go on. The human rights abuses that occur need to be documented. Voice needs to be given to the people who are suffering. And lastly, politics are going to continue to hinder progress by endlessly reinterpreting, what these rights are, what they mean, for whom they are intended, and this is a conversation which unfortunately will persist because basically because of the threat that these notions of human rights have to political power. Thanks.